Hi, Stan Moracle with the Moracle Minute. And what may be one of the greatest understatements for a headline of all time, over the weekend I saw a Bloomberg headline that said, "A great quarter for Wall Street comes at a very awkward time." The article goes on to point out that this was as of last week. Wall Street's five biggest banks disclosed $45 billion in revenue from trading and deal making, marking those businesses' best quarter in modern history. The catalyst, a deadly global pandemic, and the Federal Reserve's unprecedented measures to prop up the economy. Well, you can draw your own conclusions about that and make your own judgments. The article goes on to say, if it weren't for the pandemic, Chief Executive David Solomon at Goldman might have enjoyed the sight of a packed auditorium at Goldman, or Jamie Dimon might have strolled the aisles of JP Morgan's trading floors, personally saluting his workers, but it says instead, Solomon met with a couple dozen executives in the hall in front of him, and at JP Morgan, Dimon emailed employees a tightly worded congratulations. It reminded me immediately of John Bogle's book, The Clash of Cultures, Investment versus Speculation. And of course, many people think that John Bogle, and myself included, probably has done more to help the average individual investor. The late John Bogle now, unfortunately, did more to help the individual investor with the at least lower costs with the advent of the index mutual fund. But when he wrote this book, and his comments are dated June 2012 in the acknowledgments. So this book it's about 8 years old. He starts out in about this book to give the reader just some insight into what he's planning to do here. He says, a culture of short-term speculation, and again, this is 8 years ago, a culture of short-term speculation has run rampant, superseding the culture of long-term investment that was dominant earlier in the post-World War II era. He says these two cultures have existed in the world of capital markets and capital formation throughout history. He goes on later to say that he talks about the difference between value creation and rent seeking. He says there's a difference in kind between what economists describe as, quote, value creating activities that add value and, quote, rent seeking activities that subtract value from society on balance. And I'll let you draw your own conclusions about that. I will go on to point out that when he talked about capital formation, which most would suggest is the primary and the base purpose of Wall Street, again in 2012, he notes that providing fresh capital to young companies had averaged $45 billion annually over the prior 5 years from 2012, so this would have been back to approximately 2007. He then goes on to note that the annual volume of stock trading averaged $33 trillion, so that for the activities on Wall Street, capital formation represented 0.8% and trading represented 99.2%. Up front and about he mentions as a side note that Paul Volcker in approximately 2010, when asked what the most important invention had been that the financial services sector had created in the prior 25 years, he could only note the ATM machine. So interesting time. If you have interest, I encourage you to get this book. If you're spending more time with books, again, John Bogle, Clash of the Cultures. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.